drive home reviews for quite a while now, about 5-6 years, depending on how much you count 2020 and all that. And I've seen a lot of movies in that time. I have seen a lot of films. I have seen films that have stuck with me and become new favorites. I have seen films that honestly I don't even remember that I saw. I've seen films that have disgusted me, and I have seen films that have lifted me up and enriched me. I have seen films that were so reprehensibly bad that I could not formulate words in order to properly describe the levels of bad that I had seen. And I saw films that were so unbelievably good that once again, I couldn't find the words. I've seen films that have been very difficult to describe. 9 Days comes to mind, and I have seen films that I cannot for the life of me understand the hype behind them. But I don't think in all that time, in all those different movies, I can honestly say, as far as I can tell, I don't think I have ever been as disappointed in a movie in the squandered potential of what could have been, of a concept that is crying out for a voice to say something relevant and still be entertaining, than I see with this picture. I am at a loss. And as I leave the movie theater, I feel deflated. Again, not because the movie is bad. It is not a terrible movie, but because there was something truly special that could have been done with this film, and they decided not to do it. So there's a lot I got to unpack here. So we're going to see how much I get done. Okay, so as you probably know, because this movie had a very aggressive marketing campaign, the film focuses on Ryan Reynolds, who is a inhabitant of a video game city called Free City. The city is very much in a just any kind of open world action game kind of location. The one it reminds me the most of is Saints Row, which if you've never played Saints Row, it's a fun game. I enjoy the Saints Row series very much, but I am the first to admit it is more adolescent than adolescents should allow. So he is just one of those non-playable characters who is there to be flipped around and killed and taken hostage and blown up, and do it all with a smile on your face, basically to give psychos like myself, something fun to do. Until one day he sees a girl and a light bulb gets switched in his head, and suddenly he begins to go against his programming. He starts to do new things. He gets out of the rut that he's in, and he starts to become a cult hero and an icon, and yada, 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 attains free will, yada, yada, yada. There's more to life than just work, blah, blah, blah. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much... It's exactly what it says it's going to be on the box, honestly. If the story sounds familiar or the lesson sounds familiar, it probably should. It's The Truman Show, it's Matrix, it's Ready Player One, it's all of these movies, and rolled into one. Okay, so you want to do a modern take on The Truman Show since reality TV shows aren't such a weird concept anymore. Okay, fair enough. But, man, is this thing just paint by numbers? Now, I want to be clear before I get into this. This is not what I would consider a bad movie. It's serviceable. It's there. It does, like I say, it is exactly what it says it's going to be on the box, No real surprises, no real, nothing really that's going to stand out. It's going to be a staple of TNT reruns for, the next 20 years. Maybe if you're a big-time gamer, maybe you do enjoy it. And there are some good parts in it. Ryan Reynolds has a natural likability and charisma that can carry him through just about anything. And he's playing it down a little bit here, but it's still a decent performance. And it is also really fun to kind of see, what the world is like for characters like this. I always said, a show I would like to watch would be a totally straight, not played for laughs, not played to be funny, but I'd love to see a TV show about people who live in a world with superheroes and what that means day to day, what the day-to-day life of these people are. And that's kind of what this is. So from that perspective, it's a pretty neat concept, and they do some fun things with it. The visuals of him walking to work every day, well, tanks and, mechanized suits and all these people in bizarre costumes and hair just shoot up the joint, and he's just going about his day. There's some fun visuals to be had in there. They also have some fun with the different points of view, as, you have Guy, who is an AI, that rhymes, and the girl he falls in love with, who is a real person, a player, and, they have fun kind of switching up the points of view on certain scenes. There's probably one of the best scenes in the movie is when they go out on a date, and he kisses her, and from his perspective, it is a typical romantic comedy kind of moment. Music plays, it's very swelling, and then it cuts back to her, who's just sitting there watching it on her screen, going, no music or anything, and then back to him, and it's this big, this big moment. So they had some fun with the conceit, and I think that's a good thing. If you're going to do this, then have some fun with the genre that you've selected, and I think they did for the most part. So again, I can't say that this is a terrible movie. It's perfectly serviceable. It has some genuinely fun moments. It's got some pretty clever moments in there too, and I think if you were just kind of looking for your standard, high concept comedy, with a video game back setting, I think this one you're probably better off with this than you were with Pixels, but not as well off as you would have been with either one of the Jumanji movies. So yeah, it's not bad. It's it's okay. So if all that is true, then why then do I feel so deflated? Why do I feel so unhappy with the movie that I saw? And this is where I have to admit to being very unfair to this movie in this review, because realistically, you should be reviewing the movie you saw and not the movie that you want. But while watching this, I was just constantly reminded that there was a much better movie in this and in this concept than what we got. And the problem lies in the thematic overtones. What's the theme of the movie? What are we trying to say with this, video game conceit in this, hokey world? Because as I told my directing classes and my intro to theater classes, everything has a theme. It may not be a very big theme, maybe it's a very small theme, but everything has a theme. It has a message. It has some reason for existing. So what is the themes of this movie? Don't just sleepwalk through life. Make your own choices. Don't let other people tell you who you are and what you can be. Fight back against the system. It's the same message. I mentioned before, it's the same message of The Truman Show, of The Matrix, of Ready Player One. It's the same damn thing. Maybe you're fine with that. And if you are, great. But I see that you are taking this opportunity. You have this idea of what if an NPC in a video game suddenly decided they weren't going to follow the script that they were given, and the best you can come up with is this same story that we've seen so many hundreds of times. And in several of those examples I gave with the fucking video game conceit already. We've done this. So, I've always said it's not a good movie if while I'm sitting there watching it, I can think of a better plot in my head. So I want you to go with me now. We're going to diverge from a critique of the film, and I want you to go with me on the journey that I went through in my head as I was watching this movie, and what I feel they should have done with this. And as with most things, it's a very simple little switch. Very simple little flip. Oh, as another theme, I'm sorry. Independent things are better than big corporations. Because big corporations are soulless, and they don't care, they only want money, and everything independent is, hippie and good, and blah, blah, blah. So, sorry, I had to double back. So, there's a theme. But anyway, please join me as I discuss what I think they should have done with this movie. And again, all it takes is one minor change. Are you ready? What if, I'm playing the watcher on this one, what if instead of Ryan Reynolds being the lead, what if the NPC that gains sentience is a female? What if this was Karen Gillan? What if this was Zendaya? What if this was Zoe Saldana? What if this was Anna Kendrick? Any number of young actors who could have filled this role. Why is that a change? Because we need a little gaming history here. So the world that this game is based off of, like I said, is very reminiscent of Saints Row. And Saints Row, like a lot of open world games, got its inspiration from Grand Theft Auto, which was, famously one of the first open world video games, and infamously one of the first to take the victimization of women in video games to a whole fucking new level of sick. Women in video games have always been the trophies, they have always been the mission, and have very rarely had any kind of positive reinforcement. This is something that a lot of game critics have been talking about for years, is the lack of female representation. And in these open world games, Grand Theft Auto, Saints Row, the women get it even worse. They are hookers, they're drug addicts. You have mini games where you beat them up or where you rape them. And what's worse, and that all sounds bad on its own, but what's worse is part of the criticism of this is that is very indicative of how gaming culture as a whole treats women. Women gamers, women programmers, they are constantly under attack. And I don't care what anyone says. A lot of male gamers are not helping the situation. These guys may love to play as Lara Croft, or they may love to create a female character in Saints Row, but these are the same people that when Mortal Kombat said, we're going to reduce Sonya Blade's breast size to make it more realistic, they screamed like Trump supporters being asked to get vaccinated, wear a mask, and care about other human beings. There is no place more sexist and homophobic than a video game live stream. just isn't. And this is something that female gamers, female programmers have been fighting, and it's an uphill battle for them for years now. So you take all that into consideration. So now, think of all that. This is a real issue. And it's not a simple thing of just don't pay attention. No, there is legit harassment and legit arguments about the portrayal of women in video games like this. So now, come with me now, think of this. What if this game, or what if this movie, its main character was a woman, was a female NPC, someone who's being beaten and held hostage and kidnapped and, assaulted. Finally, one day says, I don't want this anymore. I'm not going to let you do this to me anymore. And they stand up. I'm sorry, that is a much more interesting movie with much more applicable themes than Independence is good. It's the same problem I had with the Joker a few years back. The only reason this movie comes out, in my mind, better than Joker is that at least this movie wasn't trying to hype itself up to be more than it ever claimed to be. It basically comes out and says it's a watch the funny man, be a video game character. It's not trying to come out with, this is a very deep story and we're saying something so profound about society, when in fact they are saying the least profound thing about society ever. And I understand why they didn't do it. I understand why they didn't go with my idea, because that would have alienated the people who play these video games. So of course you get Ryan Reynolds to star in it. No offense to Ryan Reynolds, but with his Deadpool performance, he and Chris Pratt have become the literal poster children for manic man boys who think they're so funny because they laugh at things that they thought were funny in third grade. Because, of course, childish man boys need more representation in movies. Because there's just not enough. They're so underutilized. It's just everything about this movie. This is one of those movies that I get the feeling, kind of like I got the feeling with certain films based on old movie or television shows or cartoons, where I get the feeling somebody who wrote it had a passing familiarity with video games and video game culture, but not enough. They play lip service to everything. Like, they have a pathetic man-child playing a cool character in the game, that the stereotypical, he lives with his mom and he's in his 20s, and it even does this man-child does uncomfortable gay overtones, like not in a I'm secretly living out my sexuality online because I can't do it in person, like they were doing in Ready Player One, but as a sign that these people are incredibly homophobic. But they don't play it as a look at how disgusting this person is for being so homophobic. They play it as, oh ho ho, he's making Ryan Reynolds uncomfortable with his sexual advances. They give a passing glance at what I've been talking about when one of the other NPC characters, who's like I don't know what she is, but she's a beautiful woman, who's going around with all the bad guys, and Ryan Reynolds says, you don't have to go with them. She's like, you're right, I won't. And apparently she writes a tell-all book. So they give a passing note to the fact that this is an issue, but they have nothing interesting to say about the issue. They have nothing interesting to say about the issue. It's just there to say, we know this is a thing, but we're not going to comment on it. We're just going to move along. you know. And it's distressing because, again, I think this movie could still have been funny, could still have been entertaining. You could have had a lot of fun with the visuals and the video game iconography like they did. All the inside jokes, the gravity gun, the portal gun, you know, they could have done a lot. They still could have done all those fun things, but it could have had something stronger and more important to say. And the reason I'm so upset about this is because you only get a shot at this once. If you tried to do the movie I'm describing, then it's automatically going to be compared to this one. Oh, that's just a Free Guy ripoff. Oh, you know, or if they even tried to do it in a sequel, which I don't think they would, you know. Yeah, you know, they're too busy worrying about losing the very audience of the people they should be trying to say, hey, you know what? You're kind of part of the problem, buddy. And I feel I can say that because I'm not, while not a hardcore gamer, I play video games, and I'm not going to say I've been mature in my video games. I've never gone online and said horrible things, but you know, when I've played Saints Row, my character is always a woman, and I dress her in skimpy things. I can be a pig too. I'm not saying that as a proud thing. I'm saying it as I recognize I'm part of the problem. You know, I'm sorry that I'm not really talking much about the movie itself because honestly, there isn't a whole lot to talk about. The only other thing I can think of to talk about is, you know, Taika Waititi is just the most annoying fucking person in this movie. He's so... And I get why, because they're trying to say that Ryan Reynolds, a video game character, is more real than this real person who's acting like a video game character. I get it, but it still comes off as there's no way this human being can exist and function to the level he's supposed to if he's acting like this. You know, yeah, and again, I know why they're doing it. I get that, but it doesn't work is the problem. But yeah, there's not much to say about the movie itself. It's fairly standard. It's just kind of there. It's the same lesson you've ever seen. Yeah, there are some interesting visuals, or there's some good parts to it, but, you know, at the end of the day, you leave the theater, and honestly, you're going to forget about it. There's nothing memorable here to really hold your interest. And again, sorry to sound like a broken record, but they had an interesting idea. And there was something really good that you could have done with this. You could have really said something. Really said something that needs to be said in an industry and a subculture that needs the slap upside the head and needs it bad. All right. But they chose to ignore the legit issues to deal with the superficial ones. And I think that's to their detriment. So as I said, I'm very disappointed in this movie. Yeah. So let's just wrap this up because I don't think there's much more to say. I've made my point, and I don't think there's much else to get to. So final grade for Free Guy. I have to go a C- on this one. And again, I'm not saying I had a terrible time watching it. It's perfectly serviceable. If that's all you want from a movie, and that's fine. I'm not trying to say that to be dismissive. If that's all you're looking for, sometimes that's all you need from a movie. It's just the distraction, comes some yucks, and, you know, easy to digest message. Okay, fine. You know, sometimes that's all you need. And if that's all you needed from this movie, then great. Then it'll work for you. You know? But I don't know. It's not that I was expecting more. I really wasn't, but I just know that there could have been. And that's the part that makes me sad. There could have been something really special here, and not just another disposable film that comes out, people talk about it for 5 minutes, and then it's basically forgotten. Like, you could have really shook up the system a little bit with this, and instead of simply saying, oh, shake up the system, don't be a robot, don't let anybody tell you. You could have actually done it if you'd had the balls, and you didn't. So, sorry. All right, so that is my very depressing review of Free Guy. I'm glad no gamers watch my channel, at least not, at least I don't think, because that would get me a lot. This review would get me a lot of hate because gamers are just the most calm and understanding and open-minded of people. Anywho, I say I'm a gamer to an extent too, so I'm not immune. I'm not saying that. Anywho, let's wrap this up. So thank you for joining me. Thanks for coming along, and yeah, as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.